Okay, back to brave Hexapoda, which is a huge group. So, the hexapods, or the insects, are found in almost every terrestrial habitat. And in this group, we see the evolution of flight, which caused a diversity explosion or an adaptive radiation with lots and lots of diversity. Do not worry, you do not have to learn everybody on this list. That would be a little too much. But we do need to learn a little bit about some basics of the hexapods. So first of all, they have 3 body segments: a head, a thorax, and an abdomen. They have 3 pairs of legs on their thorax and none on their abdomen, and 2 pairs of wings on their thorax, and at least in many of them anyway. Their respiratory system is what we call a tracheal system. So in this tracheal system, we have little openings called spiracles that open to the outside of the body. These spiracles allow air to enter the system. The air diffuses through these structures called tracheae and will surround the body tissues so that oxygen can get to the different cells of the organism and diffuse into the tissues around the trachea. In insects, we also see metamorphosis. And there are 2 general kinds of metamorphosis. We have what's called an incomplete metamorphosis, where an example would be a grasshopper, where the young immature version or the young immature organism looks like a smaller adult. Typically it would lack wings, and this juvenile usually is called a nymph. And eventually this nymph slowly, through several moltings, goes into adulthood and develops wings. So that's an incomplete metamorphosis. In a complete metamorphosis, we have a larval stage that is very different than the adult stage. And typically the larval stage is specialized for eating and growing, but possesses very few of the adult characteristics. And the adult stage is specialized for dispersal and reproduction, and in some cases, like in many moths, doesn't even eat, or eats a very different food source. So the classic example, of course, is the caterpillar and the butterfly. So the caterpillar is the larval stage that feeds on, that basically is structured for doing a lot of eating, and feeds on, things like leaf tissue. It will go into its pupal stage to reach adulthood. And then the adult is specialized for dispersal and reproduction, and this adult, in this case, does eat, but eats a very different food source, in this case, nectar from flowers rather than eating leaf tissue. So the origin of wings is really important in understanding the diversity of insects, because flight likely contributed heavily to the success of this clade. Flight helps you do things like evade predators, reach new food resources other organisms can't reach. It helps you find mates, and it helps you disperse into new environments. And it's thought that the evolution of this novel ability is part of the adaptive radiation of the insects. So insect wings are particularly interesting because it's thought that they derived from a portion of appendages. So no full appendage was lost to make the wings. And this is in contrast to the vertebrate wing, right? So the vertebrate wing, like you see in birds, is a modification of the forelimb. So vertebrates that fly lost the forelimb. This doesn't happen in the insects. Insects that have wings still have all of their legs, right? They didn't give up an important appendage to get this flight. It's thought that some of the evolutionary steps towards wings is that they might have started evolving as little solar panels to help the organism warm up. Other hypotheses include that they might have been an extension of the cuticle that was used for gliding from plant to plant, or in aquatic insects could have been parts of the gills. There are many modern variation on wings. You have situations where you have two sets of wings that operate separately. You have situations where you have two sets that function as a unit. Or you can even have one set modified as a protective covering, like we see here in this beetle. So there's a lot of different variations on wings. Interestingly, it's thought that the origin of the wing likely occurred in the common ancestor of insects and crustaceans. So in crustaceans, a respiratory appendage on the upper side of limbs develops via the control of a gene known as PDM. Insects lack this upper appendage, and instead their PDM gene controls wing development. So it's thought the connection of this PDM gene makes it very likely that wings actually evolved, from some kind of respiratory appendage in a common ancestor. So insects are very important ecologically. They are predators, they are parasites, they are decomposers, and they're also critically important as pollinators of species. They are a major link in almost every food web in the world. They are the primary pollinators of our agricultural crops. In many parts of the world, they are actually eaten by humans. But they also can be vectors of disease. So, for example, Plasmodium and Trypanosoma, both of those are transmitted, the disease is actually caused by a protist, but that protist is transmitted to humans by an insect. Finally, I want to talk about two minor relatives of the arthropods. There are the tardigrades, also known as the water bears. You can probably see why by looking at them. They're actually pretty cute. They have fleshy, unjointed appendages. They have a hydrostatic skeleton. Now, I don't know if I've mentioned this, and I really should have by now. A hydrostatic skeleton, and actually a lot of organisms have a hydrostatic skeleton. Earthworms are another example. A hydrostatic skeleton is a skeleton or a support structure that uses pressurized fluid as a means of support. So if you think of something like an earthworm, right, we have this body cavity full of fluid, and then we have an overlay. I'm going to change colors here, maybe, if I can remember how to do it. Okay, well, we'll just pretend this is a different color because I can't remember how to change colors. You have an overlay of muscles, right? And the muscles can squeeze on this pressurized fluid, and there's enough support to allow the organism to move by flexing up against this pressurized fluid. That's called a hydrostatic skeleton. These tardigrades lack a circulatory and respiratory system, and these guys are amazing. You might have heard of them before. These guys can go dormant when the environment gets poor. They're very hard to kill. It's really strikingly amazing what they're able to survive. Like the environment can get really, really, desiccated, something that other animals just would not be able to survive, and this guy comes back. They're really amazing. The other group is known as the velvet worms. These also have unjointed appendages and a hydrostatic skeleton. So those are just kind of some two smaller little groups that are worth mentioning because we find them here on our tree. But as far as the ecdysozoans go, the nematodes and the arthropods kind of dominate the story a little bit. Okay, believe it or not, we're through chapter 31, so thank you for joining me. As always, if you have questions, let me know. And have a great day.